For years, millions of Americans believed their Social Security benefits were protected. They believed that after decades of hard work, long shifts, aching backs, missed family dinners, and endless sacrifices, there would at least be one thing they could count on when retirement finally arrived: a steady check, a little security, a little peace. But now, a shocking warning is sending fear across the country because the people in power already know something that many Americans are only beginning to realize. The future of Social Security is standing on dangerous ground, and if nothing changes, benefit cuts are no longer just rumors. They are becoming a real possibility. Think about how painful that feels. People who spent 40 or 50 years paying into the system are now hearing whispers that the money may not fully be there when they need it most. Seniors are already struggling with grocery prices, medical bills, rent increases, and rising utility costs. Many can barely keep up now, so when they hear words like reductions and cuts, it doesn't sound like politics to them. It sounds like fear. It sounds like sleepless nights. It sounds like uncertainty about whether they can continue living with dignity. And what makes people even more emotional is knowing this problem didn't suddenly appear overnight. Experts have been warning about it for years. Reports have been written. Meetings have been held. Politicians have stood in front of cameras making promises again and again. Yet ordinary Americans are still left wondering why nobody stepped in before things became this serious. But in the middle of all this frustration, something powerful is beginning to happen. People are waking up. They are paying attention. They are realizing that Social Security is not some handout from the government. It is money earned through years of sweat, sacrifice, and dedication. Americans built this country. They worked through sickness, hardship, and struggle believing their future mattered. And now, more voices are rising together, demanding honesty, demanding action, and refusing to stay silent while their retirement security hangs in the balance. There comes a moment when frustration turns into heartbreak, a moment when ordinary people begin to realize that the leaders they trusted may have known about the problem all along, but still chose to delay, argue, and push it aside year after year. That is exactly how millions of Americans are feeling right now as fears grow over possible Social Security benefit reductions. People are not just angry because of the money, they are hurt because of the betrayal. They feel like they kept their side of the promise while Washington kept making excuses. For decades, hardworking Americans woke up early, paid taxes out of every paycheck, and believed they were building a safer future for themselves and their families. Factory workers, truck drivers, teachers, nurses, construction workers, cashiers, veterans, and parents all carried this country forward with the belief that Social Security would stand beside them when their working years were over. They didn't ask for luxury, they didn't ask for riches, they simply wanted stability, dignity, and the ability to live without fear in old age. But now people are looking around and asking the same painful question. If politicians knew this crisis was coming, why didn't they fix it sooner? Why did they spend so many years fighting each other instead of protecting the people who spent their entire lives paying into the system? Every delay made the problem bigger. Every empty promise pushed families closer to uncertainty. And while politicians debated, millions of Americans kept struggling with rising costs, shrinking savings, and growing anxiety about the future. Still, something powerful is growing inside the hearts of everyday people. They are no longer blindly accepting polished speeches and rehearsed promises. They are starting to demand truth. They are starting to understand that their voices matter and that silence only helps those who want the public distracted and divided. Across the country, people are waking up to the reality that protecting Social Security is not just about money. It is about respect for every worker who spent decades building a life, raising families, serving communities, and believing their sacrifices would someday be honored instead of ignored. Right now, in quiet offices and behind closed doors, decisions are being discussed that could change the future of millions of Americans, and most people have no idea how serious those conversations really are. While families are busy working long hours, paying bills, caring for children, and trying to survive rising prices, the future of Social Security hangs in the balance. The people making these decisions speak in complicated terms, reports, and political language, but for ordinary Americans, the meaning is simple. Their future security could be shrinking while nobody tells them the full truth. That is what makes this moment feel so emotional for so many people. Imagine spending your entire life doing everything society asked of you. You worked hard even when you were exhausted. You paid taxes from every paycheck. You sacrificed vacations, comfort, and sometimes even your own health just to provide for your family. Through all those years, you believed there would be a safety net waiting for you someday. Not wealth, not luxury, just enough to survive with dignity after a lifetime of work. But now, millions of people are beginning to feel like those promises are being quietly rewritten behind their backs. Seniors are sitting at kitchen tables with calculators, trying to figure out how they would survive if their monthly checks became smaller. Younger workers are wondering if the system will even be there when they retire. Families are feeling fear because they know one reduction could completely change someone's life. And yet, despite all the anxiety and uncertainty, something inspiring is beginning to happen across the country. People are opening their eyes. They are paying attention in a way they never did before. They are realizing that Social Security is not a political game. It is the result of decades of hard work by ordinary Americans who earned those benefits through sacrifice and dedication. More and more voices are rising together, refusing to let these conversations stay hidden in back rooms. People are beginning to understand that real change only happens when citizens stop staying quiet and start standing together to protect the future they worked their whole lives to build. Fear has a strange way of growing slowly. At first, people hear small rumors about Social Security problems and try not to think too much about it. They tell themselves everything will probably work out. They trust that somebody in Washington will step in before things get too serious. But then the reports keep coming. The warnings become louder. The numbers become harder to ignore. And suddenly, millions of Americans are starting to feel something heavy in their hearts because they realize this situation is no longer far away. It is becoming real. Across the country, seniors are sitting in silence wondering what happens if their monthly check gets smaller. For many people, Social Security is not extra money. It is survival money. It pays for groceries, rent, medicine, electricity, and gas. It helps grandparents stay independent. It helps widows keep their homes. It helps disabled Americans live with dignity. So when people hear talk about benefit reductions, they do not hear politics. They hear fear, they hear uncertainty, they hear the sound of stability slowly slipping away. What makes this even more emotional is that these are people who spent their entire lives working hard. These are Americans who woke up before sunrise, worked through pain, stress, and exhaustion, and kept going because they believed their future mattered. They trusted the system because they paid into it year after year. They believed that one day, after all the sacrifice, there would finally be some peace waiting for them. Now, frustration is turning into anger because ordinary people feel like they are carrying the burden while politicians continue arguing instead of solving the problem. Families are tired of speeches, tired of delays, tired of hearing promises while prices keep rising and anxiety keeps growing. But something powerful is happening in this moment, too. Americans are beginning to realize they are not powerless. They are finding their voices. They are asking harder questions. They are refusing to stay silent while decisions about their future happen behind closed doors. And all across the country, people are standing together with one simple belief in their hearts. After a lifetime of hard work, every American deserves security, dignity, and honesty about the future they earned. For millions of Americans, Social Security is not just another government program. It represents years of sacrifice, hard work, and dedication. Every paycheck carried a small piece of hope. Hope that one day, after decades of labor, there would finally be some security waiting at the finish line. People gave their strength, their time, and sometimes even their health, believing that promise would never be broken. That is why hearing about possible benefit reductions feels so deeply personal to so many families across the country. Think about the people who built this nation with their own hands, the factory workers standing on aching feet for 12-hour shifts, the truck drivers spending nights away from family just to keep food on the shelves, the teachers shaping future generations while barely making enough to save, the nurses, mechanics, farmers, veterans, and cashiers who carried responsibility year after year without asking for applause. These Americans were never looking for luxury. They simply wanted to know that after a lifetime of work, they could retire with dignity instead of fear.